The galaxy had always looked at Earth and seen nothing. A small, pale blue planet orbiting an average star at the edge of the Sol system. A backwater world that produced no fleets, no weapons of consequence, and no political power that could influence the broader systems. Trade species passed through the system, taking resources, leaving minimal damage, and writing Earth off as insignificant. In council chambers across countless star systems, humans were laughed at quietly, dismissed in reports as a weak, divided species not worth attention. For centuries, they had been overlooked, underestimated, and ignored. And yet, it was precisely this invisibility that gave humanity its first advantage. On Earth, life continued unaware, almost blissfully naive. Cities buzzed with ordinary concerns, children played under pale sunlight, and governments worked through bureaucracy as if the galaxy would never notice them. Science advanced slowly, cautiously, carefully, guided by a desire to explore, to understand, and to protect. Most humans had no idea what lay beyond the system, beyond the stars, beyond the endless blackness they saw from telescopes. They assumed the galaxy had no interest in them, and for most of history, they were right. Until the day the message came that no one wanted to receive. In the blackness of deep space, near the edge of human track systems, an alien coalition had convened. They were large, efficient, confident, and cruel. A mix of species that had conquered dozens of star systems, each with fleets that dwarfed Earth's primitive satellites. Their command centers buzzed with arrogance. Reports streamed in, human movement negligible, defenses minimal, and the Sol system insignificant. They chose to act. The target was a single human diplomat, one whose intelligence and reputation had earned attention across interstellar scientific forums, a figure known for negotiation, strategy, and observation rather than combat. To the aliens, the choice seemed trivial. Capture him, and the rest would comply. Threaten Earth, and they would bend. No species had resisted them this long without surrender or appeal. They underestimated the one thing they should have feared most, humanity's patience and calculation. The operation began quietly. Ships moved from hidden coordinates, drifting silently across empty space, cloaked in low-profile energy fields that bent radar and sensor detection. The human diplomatic ship was small, unarmed except for basic defensive systems, and reliant on standard navigation protocols. When the alien fleet first appeared on their scanners, the humans assumed it was a mapping error. A glitch in the deep space sensors. But then the ships decloaked, their massive forms blotting out distant stars, and alarms rang in sharp, panicked tones. The human diplomat, known as Dr. Elias Vaughn, had been preparing for distant communication conferences, unaware that the eyes of the galaxy had fallen on him, marking him as a pawn in a game far beyond his comprehension. Within minutes, the alien vessels encircled the diplomatic craft. Shields flared. Electronic interference disabled the ship's modest engines. Human crew members tried evasive maneuvers, but the fleet anticipated each one, moving in perfect synchronization, predicting vectors before they were even calculated. Communication channels opened with alien voices, harsh and distorted through translation protocols. "You are coming with us," one declared, simple, commanding. There was no negotiation, no threat, no preamble, just assumption. Humanity would comply. Dr. Vaughn looked at his crew, calm but alert. He did not panic. He had trained for emergencies, though nothing had prepared him for a fleet of this scale appearing without warning. He contacted Earth immediately, sending encoded signals through secure channels designed to reach only human command. Target compromised. Alien fleet engaged. Initiating contingency protocol, his calm voice transmitted, carrying authority even under stress. On Earth, responses were not immediate. Not because of weakness or indecision, but because of calculation. Human intelligence networks began to assess, triangulate, and predict. Every ship, every vector, every energy emission was analyzed in real time. Analysts pored over decades of deep space studies, looking for weaknesses, patterns, vulnerabilities. Governments coordinated quietly, mobilizing assets that the galaxy believed did not exist. For decades, humans had developed technology in secret, cloaked observation satellites, stealth ships capable of short bursts beyond conventional physics, AI-assisted predictive systems that could calculate outcomes with near-perfect accuracy. Yet none of this was visible to the galaxy. Now, it was being activated in silence. On the surface, humanity appeared calm. Streets continued to bustle. News outlets reported normal daily events. But in military command centers, lights glowed dimly, screens filled with schematics and live feeds. Officers spoke in hushed tones, knowing that the entire fate of their planet, and of Dr. Vaughn, hung in the balance. The alien coalition, unaware of the hidden depth of human preparedness, celebrated their supposed victory in private channels. They mocked the ease with which a diplomat had been captured, spoke of Earth as a bargaining chip, a minor annoyance that would soon be eradicated if it failed to comply. And yet, as they monitored the Earth system for retaliation, strange anomalies began to appear. Small satellites moved in ways that were impossible according to alien physics. Communication signals bent, scrambled, and rerouted themselves through invisible paths. Automated monitoring drones detected energy fluctuations that no known human system could generate. At first, aliens dismissed these as technical glitches. Then, their first patrol ships encountered unexpected resistance. Small drones, fast and precise, intercepted signals, shut down engines, or diverted sensors without direct confrontation. It was subtle. Too subtle for open alarm. But enough to confuse. The humans did not strike. They did not fire weapons. They simply moved in patterns that were calculated, coordinated, and utterly unexpected. Back on the diplomatic craft, Dr. Vaughn remained calm. He sent encrypted messages that contained nothing but coordinates, data packets, and timing algorithms. Small pieces of a puzzle that, when activated, would demonstrate the galaxy what humans were capable of. His crew observed quietly, fear mixed with awe. The aliens assumed that humanity's reaction was slow, hesitant, and weak. They did not know the truth. Humanity never rushed into a fight they did not fully understand. They never revealed their full strength until the moment it could be most effective. In the council chambers of Earth's government, leaders reviewed live feeds of the alien encirclement. They did not shout orders. They did not panic. They moved pieces on a cosmic chessboard, predicting every alien move, preparing contingencies for failure and success alike. Across the galaxy, alien observers noticed strange activity near Earth, energy spikes without signature, fleet movements that seemed to appear and disappear, and signals that suggested a coordination far beyond a species they had dismissed. Some began to feel uneasy, whispering that perhaps they had underestimated humans entirely. Dr. Vaughn remained the centerpiece. The bait in the galaxy's most calculated response. His abduction had been designed by aliens to pressure Earth, but in reality, it activated a chain of preparedness that the galaxy had never witnessed. Small fleets quietly repositioned near critical points, cloaked vessels monitored alien movements, AI-managed satellites scanned every jump point, and predictive models calculated outcomes of every conceivable engagement. And still, on the surface of Earth, life went on. Children laughed. Workers argued over mundane problems. Leaders studied reports and made choices that would later be seen as both calm and decisive. The aliens assumed Earth's silence meant submission, underestimating a species whose patience had been honed over centuries of survival and internal conflict. It was the calm before a storm that the galaxy could not yet imagine. Across the star systems, whispers began to circulate. Traders spoke of strange fleet activity. Scientists detected odd energy readings. Diplomats reported anomalies. None of it made sense. How could a species with such minimal outward presence create disruptions of such scale without apparent weapons or ships? Humanity had taught the galaxy a lesson in subtlety and restraint. And it had only just begun. Meanwhile, Dr. Vaughn's ship was pulled into the alien capital orbit, held safely within force fields designed to intimidate rather than protect. He observed the alien commanders as they congratulated themselves, confident in their victory. They did not see the tremor in their own ranks, the slight hesitation in their systems, the way their energy readings fluctuated unpredictably. Humans were not reactive, they were predictive. And that was the most dangerous weapon of all. The galaxy would learn, slowly and painfully, that underestimating humans had always been humanity's greatest advantage. Earth had not yet revealed its fleets, its black ops programs, its secret technologies, nor the minds that had predicted the stars' movements for decades. And when it did, the galaxy would realize that the capture of one human diplomat was the spark that would ignite an entire system-wide reckoning. And in the silence of the command centers, both human and alien, one truth became increasingly clear: the galaxy had never seen humanity. Not truly. It had only seen the shadow they allowed others to perceive. and that shadow had always been hiding a storm waiting patiently for its moment to strike. After the abduction, the galaxy expected a human reaction. Everyone did. Military analysts in distant systems speculated, diplomats whispered, and even the smallest trade planets discussed Earth's likely response. The predictions were uniform: humans would panic. Governments would scramble. Fleets, if they existed, would rush blindly to negotiation or retaliation. They were wrong. On Earth, there was no panic. Not in the streets, not in the halls of government, not in the secret command centers where humanity's real strength was quietly mobilizing. Silence hung over the planet like a shield. Ordinary people went about their days, unaware that their entire species was about to show the galaxy what patience and restraint could mean. But inside human command centers, the atmosphere was electric. Analysts, officers, scientists, and leaders worked in unison, their focus razor-sharp. Every calculation mattered. Every prediction, every pattern, every possible alien move was analyzed, cross-checked, and accounted for. There was no hurry, no noise, no wasted motion. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Alien fleets believed they had won. They believed the human diplomat, Dr. Elias Vaughn, was now a trophy, a bargaining chip, a weakling. They held him within force fields of unimaginable strength, in a capital ship orbiting a distant, resource-rich world. Commanders congratulated themselves. The diplomat was alive, unharmed, and the human response so far had been silence. They interpreted this as fear. They called their generals to speak of Earth's inevitable surrender, of humanity's weakness, and of their own brilliance. And that's when the first seeds of doubt appeared. Small incidents, almost imperceptible, began to ripple across the coalition systems. Minor patrols sent to monitor Earth suddenly found their communications scrambled, sensors blocked, and engine outputs fluctuating without explanation. One scout reported that energy readings from Earth's orbit seemed to vanish, only to reappear moments later at a different point in space. Another patrol recorded an object moving faster than physics should allow, invisible until it was almost upon them, and then gone. The aliens were confused. Trivial anomalies, they told themselves. But confusion spread. Then came the first subtle strikes. Not explosions. Not attacks. Just interference. Ships slowed. Drones misaligned. Supply routes interrupted. Systems designed for efficiency faltered. For the first time, alien commanders felt something they hadn't anticipated: uncertainty. On Earth, humans did not announce their moves. They did not fire. They did not create fear through spectacle. Every action was calculated, invisible, precise. A planet of billions, underestimated for centuries, was silently orchestrating the first moves of a plan that no alien fleet could yet understand. And while the galaxy speculated, inside the human command centers, the truth was simple. Humanity was angry, yes. But it was not rage that guided them. It was loyalty, responsibility, and an unyielding commitment to one of their own. Dr. Vaughn was not just a diplomat. He was a son, a leader, a symbol of human intellect and courage. His life mattered, not because of politics, not because of bargaining power, but because humans valued life itself. And when the galaxy learns that humans will act for what they value most, it will learn fear in its quietest, heaviest form. Earth ships, hidden from alien sensors, began repositioning silently across the system. Cloaked drones patrolled trade lanes, monitoring every approach, every jump point. Strategic satellites emitted signals that misdirected alien sensors, creating patterns of movement that suggested a fleet far larger than reality. Every minor disruption was intentional, designed to teach the galaxy one lesson: humans were not weak. Humans were not helpless. And the cost of underestimating them would be catastrophic. On the diplomat ship, Dr. Vaughn observed alien command with a calm that belied his situation. He knew that his people were moving quietly, decisively, without alarm or show. He could feel their presence in the patterns, in the anomalies, in the hidden systems that protected him even as the aliens gloated. The aliens laughed, congratulating themselves for their apparent victory. "The humans are timid," one commander said. "They are a primitive species. They will negotiate, they will comply, and then we will take what we want." Another chimed in, "Patience is key. The longer we wait, the more they will beg. Their weakness will be clear." But the first signs of human intervention were already happening. One patrol ship, sent to scan Earth's orbit, reported an unusual gravitational anomaly. It seemed minor, insignificant, but it prevented sensors from locking onto satellites. Another energy conduit failed without explanation, cutting off communications for a minor fleet division. The aliens wrote it off as coincidence, as minor technical glitches. They were wrong. The glitches were not random. They were carefully orchestrated, tiny pieces of a larger plan. Humanity's response was deliberate, quiet, invisible, lethal in its precision. And in the council chambers of Earth, the leaders watched these events unfold through encrypted live feeds. Analysts explained movements, probabilities, and predictions, while senior officials made decisions without raising their voices. Every choice was heavy with consequence. Every minor action was part of a system designed to protect one human life while teaching the galaxy a lesson in restraint, calculation, and power. Outside the Earth system, alien fleets began to whisper, even among themselves. Confusion grew. Why are their systems so precise? One officer asked. How can they react without detection? Another replied. But still, they did not grasp the truth. They had underestimated patience. They had underestimated foresight. They had underestimated loyalty. And above all, they had underestimated humanity's willingness to act for what they loved. Back on the diplomatic ship, Dr. Vaughn remained composed, though he felt the weight of his species' unspoken fury. His crew looked to him for guidance, for calm, for reassurance. He gave them all three. They think this is fear, he said quietly. They will soon learn it is something else entirely. Across the galaxy, the whispers grew louder. Traders noted anomalies in movement. Colonies reported communications that seemed to predict their next step. Diplomats debated endlessly. What is Earth doing? One asked. Why do they not respond in the way we expect? Yet no one could answer. Earth moved silently, invisibly, and with intent. Every measure was taken to ensure that Dr. Vaughn remained unharmed, that alien overconfidence would grow, and that when humanity finally acted openly, it would do so with a clarity, precision, and force the galaxy could never ignore. And through all of this, humanity remained calm. No speeches, no threats, no displays of power. Only action, hidden, measured, lethal in its subtlety. The galaxy expected weakness. Humanity delivered patience. The galaxy expected a simple reaction. Humanity delivered strategy. The galaxy expected chaos. Humanity delivered restraint. And in this silence, in this invisible orchestration of space and resources, the first cracks began to appear in the alien coalition. Their confidence wavered. Their plans faltered. Their certainty of victory, the thing they relied upon most, began to crumble. The moment the galaxy underestimated humanity, it underestimated everything. And humanity's response, silent and calculated, would set the stage for a reckoning that the stars themselves would remember. For Earth, the abduction was personal. For humanity, the abduction was a test. And for the galaxy, it was the first warning: do not mistake patience for weakness. Do not mistake silence for fear. The humans had begun to move. And the galaxy, for all its fleets and power, was about to feel the weight of a species that had been underestimated for too long. While the galaxy watched in awe and confusion, Earth moved quietly, unseen, unheard, and unstoppable. Hidden beneath layers of ordinary life, beneath the bustling cities, beneath the governments and the offices, lay the machinery of preparation. Humanity had learned over centuries to survive against impossible odds, to protect what mattered most without announcing its presence. And now, for the first time in centuries, every secret plan, every hidden fleet, every advanced technology that had been whispered about in legends and dismissed by aliens as fantasy began to stir. The abduction of Dr. Elias Vaughn was not just a threat. It was a signal, a call to action that awakened humanity's latent strength. In underground command centers, engineers and strategists worked tirelessly, their eyes fixed on screens that showed alien movements, patrol routes, and communications. Every ship, every drone, every satellite was checked, tested, and prepared for deployment. Nothing was left to chance. Humans did not act with recklessness. They acted with calculation, patience, and a level of precision the galaxy had never witnessed. Cloaked vessels were moved into strategic positions around the Sol system, each one invisible to alien sensors, each one capable of incredible speed and firepower. Drones capable of intercepting and redirecting communications were activated, ensuring that no message from Earth could be intercepted or distorted. Even the simplest technologies had been upgraded, refined, and synchronized, creating a silent web of defense and intelligence that stretched across the system and beyond. The emotional weight of the operation pressed on every human involved. This was no longer just a military response. It was personal. Dr. Vaughn was not just a diplomat. He was a symbol of humanity's unity, of its intelligence, and of its potential. And the thought of losing him was intolerable. Leaders spoke quietly to one another, their voices calm but intense. "We must protect him at all costs," one said. "He represents more than himself. He represents every human who has ever been underestimated, dismissed, or overlooked." Another replied, "And we will. We have trained for this. We have prepared for this. The galaxy will not break us, not now, not ever." Outside the command centers, the world appeared calm, ordinary, even naive. Streets bustled, children laughed, and daily life carried on as if nothing had happened. To the galaxy, this was weakness. To humans, it was patience. Every ordinary moment was part of the preparation, every calm heartbeat a measure of resolve. The alien coalition, meanwhile, remained unaware of the depth of the preparations unfolding under their eyes. They believed they had the advantage, that Earth's response would be reactive, emotional, and predictable. They could not have been more wrong. Humanity had trained itself to think centuries ahead, to anticipate consequences, to plan for contingencies that others could not imagine. And now, that training was being put into action. Fleets moved silently into position near critical jump points, ready to intercept, defend, and observe. Cloaked ships watched alien movements, analyzing patterns, predicting strategies, and reporting back to Earth in ways that were impossible to detect. Satellites aligned in formations that created invisible shields and traps, while drones prepared to disable enemy systems without firing a single shot. Every tool, every weapon, every piece of technology had been honed, tested, and synchronized with human minds in a network of precision that no other species could replicate. The emotional core of humanity drove every decision. Every human knew the stakes. Every individual, from the pilots to the engineers to the scientists, understood the cost of failure. They were not fighting for conquest. They were fighting to protect one of their own, and in doing so, they were fighting for every human who had ever been dismissed as weak, powerless, or insignificant. Dr. Vaughn, still held captive, had no idea of the scale of humanity's hidden strength. He felt fear, yes, but also a deep trust in the species he served. He had studied their history, their strategy, and their resilience. And now, watching anomalies appear in alien systems, observing the subtle failures and confusions that arose without open conflict, he began to understand. Humanity was awakening. And the galaxy was about to learn why no species should ever underestimate them. Across the alien coalition, small malfunctions began to appear. Communications were disrupted, sensors misread movements, and patrol ships returned with reports that made no sense. Fleet commanders dismissed them at first, blaming technical glitches or minor sabotage. But as the anomalies multiplied, confusion grew. They could not predict Earth's next move. They could not understand the invisible web of intelligence, precision, and planning that enveloped their systems. Meanwhile, humans continued their silent preparations. Supply lines were reinforced, escape vectors were calculated, defensive positions established, and contingencies for every possible alien response mapped in meticulous detail. Every human involved moved with purpose, calm, and dedication. It was as if the entire species had become a single organism, breathing with the same rhythm, thinking with the same clarity, and acting with the same unyielding resolve. And the galaxy remained unaware. Observers who had dismissed Earth as a minor world could not perceive the scale of what was happening. Even the aliens holding Dr. Vaughn captive could not sense the preparation. Every move was invisible, every action hidden, every plan executed in silence. Humans had become shadows, ghosts, and storms at the same time. And in the quiet of command centers, one truth was clear: Earth was ready. Not for war. Not for revenge. Not for conquest. But for protection. For loyalty. For justice. Every system in position, every ship hidden, every strategy calculated, Humanity waited for the signal that would ignite the next stage. And in that waiting, the galaxy began to feel something it had never experienced before: tension. The air across countless planets seemed heavier. Ships moved more cautiously. Leaders spoke with hesitation. Diplomats wondered if they had misjudged a species they had always ignored. Humanity's preparation was a silent storm, unseen, unheard, unstoppable. And when it finally struck, it would not merely be a battle. It would be a lesson. A lesson in patience. A lesson in loyalty. A lesson in why no species should ever underestimate humans. Every human, from the captain of a cloaked reconnaissance ship to the engineer recalibrating sensors in a hidden orbital station, understood their role. They were not fighting for glory. They were fighting for life. For honor. For the reminder that a species dismissed as weak could be stronger than anything the galaxy had ever imagined. And somewhere, in the midst of the invisible fleet and silent technology, Dr. Vaughn sensed the truth. Humanity was not reacting. Humanity was preparing. And in the stillness of that preparation lay a power so vast, so precise, and so lethal that the galaxy would never again see Earth as insignificant. Every alien calculation had failed to predict this. Every assumption about weakness had been wrong. The humans were quiet, calm, patient, and perfectly deadly in their restraint. And that restraint carried emotion, history, and morality that no species could ever understand from the outside. The galaxy thought it had captured one diplomat. In reality, it had awoken an entire species. And in the quiet of their hidden fleets, the humans waited for the moment when patience, loyalty, and strategy would converge, forever changing the way the stars would see Earth. The galaxy waited for Earth to respond. Days passed, and still, there was silence. The alien coalition assumed compliance, believing that the humans would negotiate, beg, or submit. They were wrong. Humanity's silence was not fear. It was a warning, quiet and deliberate, a pulse that ran through systems without exposing itself. Across the Sol system, hidden fleets shifted positions subtly, invisible to sensors and cloaked in layers of technology no alien could detect. Satellites aligned themselves along critical paths, creating invisible barriers and traps. Drones patrolled trade routes, diverting ships, scrambling signals, and sowing confusion, yet without firing a shot. The galaxy could see none of this, and the aliens could see only fragments, anomalies they dismissed as errors or coincidences. And that was the point. Humans never revealed their full capability until the time was right. The warning was subtle, patient, and terrifying in its restraint. In the command centers of Earth, leaders reviewed live feeds from every hidden system. Every potential threat, every alien fleet movement, every possible vector for attack was analyzed in real time. Officers, scientists, and engineers worked in perfect coordination, a network of intelligence and strategy invisible to the galaxy. And all the while, humanity's purpose remained singular: protect one of their own. Dr. Elias Vaughn, still held aboard the alien capital, sensed it too. The anomalies were not random. There was a rhythm to them, a pulse he could feel even through the isolation of his captivity. Humans were not panicking. Humans were preparing. And the galaxy would understand the meaning of restraint too late. The alien coalition, confident in their victory, continued to mock Earth. They will beg, one commander said. They will negotiate. Their weakness is obvious. Another replied, their silence is meaningless. They are insignificant. Yet, even as they spoke, small incidents began to ripple through their fleets. A scout vessel sent to reconnoiter Earth's orbit returned with inexplicable reports. Engines fluctuated without command, sensors misread positions, and communication channels failed intermittently. Patrols were diverted by unseen forces. Supply chains slowed inexplicably. Systems thought to be secure were subtly compromised, yet no weapons were fired. The alien commanders dismissed these as minor malfunctions, glitches in their otherwise flawless technology. They were wrong. Each disruption was intentional, a message that humans were watching, calculating, predicting. Each subtle strike was a reminder that the species they had dismissed as weak was anything but. Humanity's warning was clear: do not test us. Do not underestimate us. Protect one of our own. Or face consequences beyond comprehension. Back on Earth, leaders spoke quietly but firmly to one another. We do not seek war, said one official. We seek to protect. But we will not tolerate arrogance, cruelty, or indifference to life. Every decision was heavy with meaning. Every calculated move carried moral weight. The humans understood that the galaxy might not grasp their restraint, that some would mistake patience for weakness. But they also knew that restraint itself was power, power the galaxy would soon learn to fear. Across alien communication channels, confusion spread. Officers whispered about anomalies, patrols reported inexplicable system failures, and fleet commanders debated the strange movements around Earth's orbit. None could comprehend the invisible network of precision, technology, and strategy that had been woven around their fleets. Humans had created a web that could strike anywhere, at any time, and yet they did not strike. The galaxy felt the tension, subtle but undeniable. Traders, scientists, and diplomats began to notice irregularities. Planets saw strange energy patterns. Ships experienced sensor failures. And everywhere, the alien coalition began to question their certainty. On the diplomatic ship, Dr. Vaughn watched the alien commanders grow uneasy. The arrogance and laughter that had dominated their conversations slowly gave way to hesitation. The humans they had dismissed as weak were already turning the tide of psychological dominance. And this dominance was not built on firepower or destruction. It was built on patience, intelligence, and moral resolve. On Earth, children played in sunlit parks, unaware of the storm brewing in silence above their heads. Workers debated trivial matters. Leaders analyzed complex alien maneuvers. Engineers recalibrated satellites that no one outside the command centers would ever know existed. Every ordinary moment was a layer in humanity's warning, a signal that restraint itself could be deadly. And then, the first direct but controlled disruption came. An alien patrol attempting to jump to Earth's system found their engines failing mid-transition, their sensors scrambled, their communications cut. No weapon fired. No lives lost. Yet the message was unmistakable: humans were ready. Humans could strike. Humans could end the threat entirely, but they had chosen not to. The emotional weight of this restraint was felt across humanity's fleets. Every captain, pilot, and strategist knew the cost of the next step. The galaxy had tested them, and they had responded with patience, morality, and absolute precision. Alien commanders began to whisper among themselves, fear creeping in despite their training. They could not predict what the humans were doing. They could not understand how a species they had dismissed as primitive could manipulate events with such invisible force. And on Earth, leaders reviewed every anomaly, every small disruption, every tiny victory of observation and preparation. They did not smile. They did not celebrate. They felt only the gravity of responsibility. Every action, every movement, every decision could mean the difference between life and death, between peace and war. And humanity would not falter. The warning had been sent. The galaxy had received it, even if it did not yet fully comprehend it. It was a quiet warning, a silent thunder that resonated across the stars. Humans do not beg. Humans do not negotiate weakness. Humans do not retreat. And if pushed, humans do not forgive those who threaten the lives they value. In the alien capital, tension grew. Officers stared at their readouts, at their failing sensors, at their inexplicable anomalies, and they realized that the species they had dismissed might not be just clever, they might be unstoppable. Yet still, humanity did not strike openly. They held back, their morality restraining their power, their patience waiting for the perfect moment. And the galaxy, for all its fleets and power, began to feel an emotion unfamiliar to them, unease. Fear mixed with confusion. Respect mixed with dread. The species they had ignored for centuries was awakening, and the first lesson had been delivered, not in destruction, but in quiet, lethal precision. And on Earth, in the heart of the command center, one leader said quietly to another, "They think we are weak. They do not know patience is the deadliest weapon of all." Every human present understood the meaning. The galaxy might test them. The aliens might provoke them. But humanity would act only with purpose, with strategy, and with moral clarity. Every measure was taken to protect Dr. Vaughn, every contingency mapped, every variable calculated. The warning had been given. The galaxy had received it. And now, all that remained was to wait, for the next move, for the moment when patience would turn into action, for the moment when the species they had dismissed would finally be recognized for what it truly was, a force no one could ignore. The galaxy was watching Earth, expecting hesitation, expecting weakness, expecting fear. But what came next was neither hesitation nor panic. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades, quietly, in shadows and secrecy. Every fleet, every satellite, every drone that had been hidden, cloaked, or unused now moved with precision across the Sol system. The first strike was not loud. There were no explosions to announce humanity's power, no banners, no proclamations. It was subtle, almost invisible, a whisper in the machinery of the stars, yet it carried a weight the galaxy had never felt. Alien patrols that thought themselves secure suddenly found their ships immobilized. Engines faltered without warning, communication channels scrambled, and critical systems that had been considered invulnerable were disabled. It was not chaos. It was exactness. Every interference, every disruption, every minor failure was carefully calculated, a signal that humans were not weak, and that the species that had been dismissed as insignificant had been quietly preparing to assert its will. And while these strikes were non-lethal, their impact was devastating. Supply chains halted. Fleets became stranded in empty space. Sensors went dark. Alien commanders began to realize that the humans were not merely reacting, they were anticipating, predicting, and controlling events on a scale no one had imagined. The human response was emotionally charged but disciplined. Behind every silent strike was a motivation deeper than strategy, the protection of Dr. Elias Vaughn, the diplomat held hostage, and the demonstration that one human life could awaken the true strength of an entire species. Leaders on Earth knew the stakes. Every calculation carried the weight of millions of lives across the galaxy. Engineers monitored systems with sweat on their brows, pilots hovered in hidden space, and strategists ran endless simulations to ensure that every move, every adjustment, every strike would maximize protection and minimize harm. And still, the galaxy watched, unaware of the true scale of humanity's power. The aliens began to panic. Commands were repeated. Fleets tried to regroup. But every attempt to respond was anticipated, every movement countered before it could even begin. Humanity had created a network of precision and observation so vast, so meticulous, that even the most advanced species had no idea what they were facing. Dr. Vaughn, aboard the alien capital, could feel it. Subtle tremors in the ship systems, moments of hesitation in alien crews, the invisible threads of human calculation reaching across the void. He realized that his people had been preparing for this moment far longer than he had ever known. And their response was not reckless. It was deliberate, moral, precise. Alien leaders, once confident in their victory, now whispered among themselves. Panic, fear, and/or battled in their voices. How can they do this without weapons? One asked. They are everywhere, but nowhere, another stammered. The humans had demonstrated that power did not require destruction, that control could be exercised with subtlety, and that strategy could protect lives while humiliating arrogance. And still, humanity held back the full weight of its strength. Every action was measured. Every move had purpose. Every life, human or alien, was considered. The restraint carried as much impact as the strikes themselves. Across distant colonies, alien scientists and observers began to question their assumptions. Every system they believed invulnerable had been exposed as fragile under invisible pressure. Every prediction about human weakness had been shattered. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. Traders, diplomats, and even minor factions reported anomalies, strange movements, failures that could not be explained. It was as if the universe itself had shifted, and the source of that shift was Earth. On Earth, the command centers were calm. Analysts updated leaders in real time, noting every success, every subtle disruption, every strategic victory without casualties. And yet, there was no celebration. Humans understood the weight of the moment. They understood that the next steps would be even more critical. They had not begun to unleash their full power, and the galaxy would soon learn that patience and precision could be more terrifying than outright destruction. Alien fleets, now unnerved and hesitant, attempted to regroup. Every jump point was guarded, every strategy countered. The humans, unseen, controlled the battlefield without revealing themselves. They were ghosts in the stars, shadows that dictated the flow of events with absolute clarity. And through it all, the emotional core of humanity drove every decision. They were fighting not for conquest, not for glory, not even for revenge. They were fighting for loyalty, for honor, for one human life that represented the unity, intelligence, and indomitable spirit of their species. Dr. Vaughn watched from his forced captivity, a sense of awe growing with every anomaly and subtle disruption he observed. Humanity was alive in ways the galaxy had never seen. They were not only strong. They were precise. They were moral. They were patient. And that patience, that discipline, that restraint, carried more power than any weapon the aliens had ever possessed. Across the alien coalition, fear began to take root. Leaders who had once mocked humanity now whispered about the impossibility of predicting Earth's moves. Analysts argued about the nature of the anomalies. Fleet commanders struggled to maintain control. And in the midst of it all, humans acted not with haste, not with panic, but with calm determination, guided by loyalty and strategy that no alien mind could calculate. Every satellite, every cloaked vessel, every drone, every hidden ship participated in a symphony of preparation and disruption. And still, humanity withheld its greatest strengths, choosing instead to teach the galaxy the value of restraint, of precision, of loyalty. Across the galaxy, the first strike of humanity was complete. No worlds had been destroyed. No ships annihilated. And yet, the alien coalition understood, finally, that the humans they had dismissed as weak were not only capable of destroying them, they were capable of reshaping the rules of engagement entirely. And as the invisible fleets returned to hidden positions, as the command centers quietly reviewed the results, one truth became undeniable. The galaxy had misjudged humanity for centuries, and the species they had underestimated had only just begun to reveal the scope of its power. The first strike was over. But the warning, delivered without bloodshed, reverberated across star systems. Humans would act to protect what they valued, and no species could calculate, predict, or resist the force of their loyalty, patience, and precision. The galaxy would remember this day, not for the violence it contained, but for the quiet, invisible power that Earth had unleashed without firing a single devastating shot. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows of the Sol system, the humans waited. Patient. Calculated. Emotional. Ready for the next stage. And the galaxy, trembling without knowing why, could only wait for what would come next. Dr. Elias Vaughn sat in the dim light of the alien capital, the hum of the ship's systems filling the silence around him. He had been trained to remain calm under pressure, to maintain clarity even in the most dire situations. Yet even his composure was tested now, not by fear of death, but by the invisible storm that was gathering outside. He could sense it, not in flashes, not in explosions, but in subtle anomalies. Systems faltered briefly, patrol routes seemed to loop back without explanation, communications glitched, and yet no attack came. It was as if something, or someone, was watching, controlling, and waiting. That someone was humanity. And humanity's gaze was relentless, precise, and deeply emotional. On Earth, the command centers were alive with activity, but not with panic. Every analyst, every strategist, every officer understood the stakes. This was no ordinary military engagement. The survival of a single human life, Dr. Vaughn's life, had become a test of loyalty, courage, and morality. Every decision carried weight far beyond the calculations of technology. Humans were not fighting for glory or conquest. They were fighting for one of their own, and in that fight, the galaxy would see a species that valued life, honor, and commitment above all else. Across the alien coalition, unease grew. Ships that had once moved with confidence now hesitated. Patrols faltered. Orders were repeated, questioned, and debated. And still, nothing overt happened. The humans did not fire a weapon. They did not assault fleets openly. They were calculating, preparing, watching. And with every small, invisible move, the aliens' confidence eroded. Dr. Vaughn could feel it. He was no longer simply a captive. He was the center of humanity's silent, invisible counterattack. Every sensor glitch, every communication failure, every sudden anomaly was a thread in the web being spun around him. The aliens assumed he was powerless. They assumed that because he was human, because he was alone and surrounded by their fleets, Earth would capitulate. They were wrong. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, and their patience, loyalty, and precision had been honed in ways no other species could comprehend. On Earth, the emotional intensity was palpable. Leaders spoke quietly to one another, eyes glued to screens showing real-time anomalies in alien systems. Engineers adjusted sensors, analysts recalculated probabilities, and strategists plotted contingencies for contingencies. Each human involved carried a personal weight. Dr. Vaughn was not just a diplomat, not just a strategist, he was a symbol of humanity's intelligence, courage, and unity. And humanity would not fail him. Every subtle interference, every disruption in alien fleets, every unexplained failure was a calculated act of protection. And yet, the humans withheld their full power. They did not strike openly. They waited. They watched. They restrained themselves. Their restraint was emotional, moral, and strategic. Across the galaxy, alien officers began to whisper of anomalies they could not explain. Patrols returned with readings that contradicted physics, sensors failed in impossible ways, and communications loops seemed to defy reason. The coalition began to fracture. Doubt spread like a virus. "What is Earth doing?" one commander asked, panic creeping into his voice. "Why do they not respond openly?" another replied. And yet the humans remained silent, calm, and perfectly controlled. Every element of the hidden fleets, every cloaked vessel, every stealth drone, every satellite worked in unison, not for destruction, but for protection. Humanity's response was emotionally charged, but disciplined. Each decision reflected moral clarity, loyalty, and a profound respect for life. Even in hiding, humans demonstrated a form of strength that no alien technology could quantify: the strength of purpose, the strength of unity, the strength of restraint. Dr. Vaughn felt it in every subtle fluctuation, every minor interruption, every anomaly that the aliens could not explain. Humanity was moving for him, protecting him in ways he could barely comprehend. And this was only the beginning. Across alien systems, fleets attempted to regroup. Orders were shouted, and yet hesitation persisted. Humans had anticipated every move, every pattern, every assumption. They had turned alien confidence into doubt, alien arrogance into confusion. And still, there was no overt attack. Humans acted with precision, patience, and care. They acted emotionally, morally, and with unwavering loyalty. Every choice carried the weight of centuries of survival, every movement reflected the value humans placed on life, and every restraint demonstrated power that no alien mind could calculate. Dr. Vaughn began to feel hope, not reckless, naive hope, but steady, grounded hope. He understood that his species was watching, protecting, and preparing. Every silent movement, every hidden drone, every cloaked ship was part of a plan that would ensure his safety. And the aliens, arrogant in their perceived victory, could feel none of it. Their calculations had failed. Their confidence had faltered. Their assumptions about human weakness had crumbled. And yet, humanity remained patient. The galaxy would not understand this for some time, but the humans were demonstrating a power far beyond firepower. They were demonstrating that loyalty, moral clarity, and precise action could protect a life even against impossible odds. On Earth, humans prepared for the next step. Every contingency, every strategy, every possible move was calculated, rehearsed, and refined. Their technology, intelligence, and tactics remained mostly invisible, but the emotional stakes drove every action. Humanity was not fighting for conquest. Humanity was fighting to protect one of their own. And in doing so, they were teaching the galaxy a lesson: do not underestimate humans. Do not mistake silence for fear. Do not assume patience means weakness. Across the stars, alien commanders realized they were trapped in an invisible web, orchestrated by a species they had ignored for centuries. Their fleets moved, yet they could not act decisively. Their sensors failed, yet they could not predict the next anomaly. And in the heart of this invisible storm, Dr. Vaughn sat quietly, a calm witness to humanity's loyalty, patience, and moral strength. Humanity's restraint was as lethal as any weapon. Every hidden fleet, every cloaked ship, every silent drone, every calculated interference was a testament to what humans valued most: one life, one species, one unbreakable bond. And somewhere, deep within the hidden command centers, a voice spoke softly, calmly, and firmly: we will protect him. Always. No matter what. The galaxy had seen fleets, battles, and wars. It had seen conquerors, tyrants, and champions. But it had never seen restraint as power. It had never seen patience as a weapon. And it had never seen loyalty as a force that could shape the course of history without a single shot being fired. Humanity's first emotional victory was complete. The life of Dr. Vaughn was protected, and the galaxy had begun to understand that the humans they had underestimated were far more than a backwater species. They were patient. They were precise. They were loyal. And they were watching. The galaxy believed it had the upper hand. Alien fleets towered above systems, patrols scanned every jump point, and command officers whispered assurances of inevitable victory. Yet every confident step they took, every calculation, every prediction, was already anticipated. Humanity was playing a game the galaxy could not see, a game of shadows where the rules were theirs alone. Hidden fleets drifted silently in the darkness, cloaked ships positioned near critical routes, satellites aligned in invisible formations that no sensor could detect, and drones patrolled the spaces between stars with mechanical precision. Every move was deliberate, calculated, and invisible. Humanity did not strike openly. They were not reckless. But their presence was felt in every disruption, every anomaly, every failure of the alien fleets to operate as they had before. On Earth, command centers buzzed with silent intensity. Analysts mapped alien patrols, predicted their adjustments, and recalculated contingencies with unerring accuracy. Every officer, engineer, and pilot understood their place in the invisible web, each contributing to a strategy that had been refined for decades. And at the center of it all was one principle: loyalty. Every calculation, every strategy, every shadowed maneuver existed to protect one human life, Dr. Elias Vaughn, and, in doing so, to demonstrate the unyielding strength of the human species. Dr. Vaughn himself began to understand the depth of humanity's unseen power. While his captors flaunted arrogance, believing they held an insignificant human, subtle signs of intervention appeared around him. Communications that should have been perfect faltered briefly, sensors blinked at impossible intervals, and systems occasionally misread positions. Each anomaly was small, seemingly insignificant, yet together they revealed a single truth: humans were everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The aliens, confident and arrogant, could not comprehend what was happening. They tried to regroup, to assert control, but every move was countered invisibly, preempted by a species they had dismissed for centuries. Frustration and fear began to creep into their ranks. Orders repeated, fleets hesitated, and patrols faltered. Analysts and commanders argued over inexplicable anomalies, trying to rationalize the unseen hand that disrupted their well-laid plans. And humanity watched, listened, and waited. Every hidden drone, every cloaked ship, every recalibrated sensor was a piece of a larger puzzle, a game where the stakes were higher than territory, higher than resources, higher than power. They were protecting one of their own, and in doing so, they were rewriting the rules of engagement in the galaxy. On Earth, emotion ran just as strongly as strategy. Leaders did not celebrate victories. Engineers did not boast of technological brilliance. Every participant in the operation felt the weight of responsibility. This was not a game of glory. It was a game of life, morality, and justice. Humanity's restraint was emotional, disciplined, and deadly in its subtlety. Every human knew that reckless action could risk Dr. Vaughn's life, could compromise their position, could give the aliens a chance to recover. They did not falter. They did not panic. They calculated, adapted, and prepared. Every silent action, every imperceptible disruption, every subtle interference was a message the aliens would eventually understand. Humans cannot be predicted, cannot be intimidated, cannot be underestimated. And the game deepened. Alien patrols moved, thinking they had discovered patterns, thinking they could anticipate Earth's responses. But each assumption had been anticipated. Every path they chose led into carefully prepared, invisible traps. Sensors were misdirected, communications were subtly rerouted, and even the smallest patrol vessels were subtly constrained, forced into positions where they were vulnerable yet unaware. Dr. Vaughn watched this unfold from the heart of his captivity. His eyes, once filled with fear, now carried awe and quiet confidence. He realized that humanity's true power was not merely in firepower or technology. It was in patience, in precision, in moral clarity, and in the unwavering loyalty they felt for one another. He felt it in every disruption that went unnoticed by his captors, in every calculation that foiled the enemy without a shot fired, in every shadowed maneuver that moved like a silent storm across the void. Alien commanders began to whisper among themselves. Frustration turned to fear, fear to confusion. They are everywhere, one said. And yet, nowhere, another admitted. But even as doubt spread, humans did not reveal their hand. The restraint, the patience, the calculated inaction was a weapon in itself, a lesson in strategy, morality, and emotional strength. Every hidden fleet, every cloaked ship, every silent drone was part of a larger design, a network of protection and anticipation that no alien mind could fully comprehend. And through it all, humanity's core principle remained: loyalty above all else. Dr. Vaughn was the symbol, yes, but also the proof. One human life could awaken a species, could unleash strategy, morality, and patience upon the galaxy in ways no other species could replicate. Across alien fleets, hesitation spread. Patrols faltered. Ships misaligned. Orders were questioned. And still, the humans remained unseen, silent, and unyielding. Earth's command centers operated with the precision of a machine and the heart of a human. Leaders did not panic, strategists did not falter, engineers did not hesitate. Every action carried emotional weight and strategic genius. Humans had become shadows, yet their influence reached across the stars. The game of shadows continued. Every movement, every calculation, every unseen intervention built toward a purpose far greater than territory or victory. It was a purpose of loyalty, protection, and moral certainty. And as the galaxy watched, unaware of the invisible storm swirling through its fleets, one truth became undeniable: humans were no longer the species to be dismissed. They were patient. They were precise. They were morally unyielding. And in the game of shadows, they were the masters. The alien coalition had believed it could control events, manipulate humans, and dominate the Sol system. They were wrong. The humans had turned the rules upside down. The galaxy would soon witness not a war of fleets, but a war of strategy, morality, and unbreakable loyalty. And somewhere, hidden in the void between stars, the humans waited for the perfect moment to reveal their full hand, their silent power, and the emotional force that had been guiding every move since the abduction began. Humanity's game of shadows had begun. And in that game, no alien would ever underestimate them again. Across the vastness of space, tension stretched like an invisible web, binding fleets, systems, and minds in silent anticipation. Earth did not strike openly. The galaxy waited for fireworks, for the roar of warships, for explosions that would announce humanity's retaliation. But humanity did not act with noise. They acted with precision. They acted with restraint. And in that restraint lay a power so profound that it made the alien coalition pause, question, and fear. Cloaked fleets drifted silently near strategic jump points, unseen and undetectable. Drones monitored alien movements, invisible to every sensor and hidden from every observation post. Satellites aligned in patterns that created an invisible lattice of control, subtly influencing systems without alerting the enemy. Every piece of human technology moved with meticulous coordination, each action measured, each movement purposeful. The galaxy could see nothing, yet felt the tension like a growing storm. On Earth, command centers were alive, but calm. Analysts studied every shift in alien patrols, every minor anomaly in fleet movements, every sensor failure. Engineers recalibrated hidden devices, ensuring redundancy and invisibility. Strategists plotted contingencies that covered not only hundreds of possibilities but also contingencies for the contingencies themselves. And yet, humanity remained patient, restrained, controlled. Dr. Elias Vaughn, still held in the alien capital, began to feel it: the invisible pressure, the unspoken warning, the invisible storm gathering around him. Subtle anomalies, minor malfunctions, and unexplainable glitches hinted at the immense network of control humanity had woven. It was a protection far beyond brute force. It was loyalty, precision, and moral clarity rendered in action. Alien commanders, once arrogant, now whispered in uncertainty. They had anticipated panic, perhaps a desperate attack, or a flurry of reckless strikes. Instead, they faced stillness, a quiet that was heavy with intent, a calm that radiated control. And that calm was more terrifying than any weapon they had ever wielded. "Why do they not act?" one officer asked, voice edged with fear. "Are we missing something?" another whispered. Every plan they had made to intimidate Earth seemed futile. Every assumption about human weakness began to crumble. Yet humanity waited, restrained and patient, testing the coalition, teaching a lesson that the galaxy would never forget. Power is not only in destruction, but in the knowledge of what you protect and how far you will go to protect it. On Earth, the emotional weight of this standstill was felt by every human involved. Leaders understood the stakes, engineers recalculated every hidden system, pilots monitored invisible fleets, and strategists observed patterns that only humans could see and understand. This was more than strategy. It was a moral battle, a demonstration of loyalty, and an assertion of intelligence, patience, and restraint. Every hidden move was infused with emotion. Every subtle disruption in alien fleets was a message: we are watching. We are prepared. We are united. And we will not yield. The alien fleets attempted maneuvers, trying to regain confidence, attempting to force Earth's hand. But every move they made had already been anticipated. Minor disruptions multiplied into chains of confusion. Communications failed, sensors misread positions, engines faltered. The coalition's certainty began to fracture. And still, Earth remained silent, restrained, invisible, and utterly lethal in potential. Dr. Vaughn could feel his people's presence in the anomalies. He realized that humanity's strength was not being shown yet, it was being concealed, honed, and positioned for maximum effect. Their restraint carried weight, their patience carried power, their loyalty carried force. Across distant colonies, alien observers began to report irregularities, patterns in ship movements that defied explanation, fluctuations in energy readings that suggested a force beyond known technology, and sequences of failures that hinted at planning and foresight. Confusion spread faster than any human fleet ever could. The galaxy had never faced restraint as a weapon, patience as a strategy, and moral loyalty as a shield. On Earth, humans continued to prepare, to position, to anticipate. The standstill was not stagnation. It was a symphony of silent actions, invisible maneuvers, and calculated patience. Every hidden vessel, every unseen drone, every satellite and cloak was part of an intricate pattern that extended across space. Humanity's control was everywhere and nowhere. And in this standstill, every human understood the stakes, every operator felt the responsibility, every strategist carried the weight of millions of lives across the galaxy. Every choice was driven not by desire for revenge or conquest, but by a singular, unshakable purpose: protect one human, uphold loyalty, and assert that no species could ever misjudge humanity again. Alien commanders, sensing the pressure but unable to locate its source, began to debate among themselves. Fear replaced arrogance. Doubt replaced certainty. And the stillness, the quiet, patient, and restrained movements of humanity, became the loudest message they had ever received: underestimate us, and the consequences will be unbearable. Humanity's restraint, calm, and invisible control were more powerful than any fleet, more devastating than any weapon. They had transformed patience into dominance, loyalty into strategy, and restraint into a force that reshaped the very rules of engagement. And somewhere, in the unseen depths of the Sol system, hidden human fleets waited, silent yet ready, their emotional, moral, and strategic preparation complete. The galaxy had reached a standstill, not because of fear of battle, but because of fear of what the humans might do next. And Dr. Vaughn, sensing it from his captivity, understood that this quiet moment was not hesitation. It was humanity's most potent weapon, the demonstration that the species would act not recklessly, not with rage, but with unwavering loyalty, precision, and moral clarity. The standstill was over the lives of billions, over the honor of a species, and over the message that would echo across the stars forever: humans do not act without purpose, humans do not strike without reason, and when they finally move, the galaxy will know the full weight of their resolve. The galaxy held its breath, unaware of the invisible storm gathering in the darkness of space. Humanity had waited with patience, with precision, and with restraint, and now the time had come for the first true strike, not of brute force, but of undeniable presence, skill, and loyalty. Cloaked fleets moved like shadows across the critical routes near the Sol system, unseen by sensors, undetectable to even the most advanced alien technology. Drones flitted silently through patrol zones, subtly disrupting engines, communications, and sensor arrays, creating confusion without a single shot being fired. Each action was deliberate, each interference carefully calibrated. The invisible strike began not with noise, but with calculation. Humanity did not need to announce its power. The aliens would feel it in every disruption, every failure, every subtle loss of control. On Earth, the command centers hummed with quiet intensity. Analysts tracked alien fleet patterns, recalculated every deviation, and updated strategies in real time. Engineers adjusted satellites and drones, ensuring flawless coordination across invisible networks. Pilots in cloaked vessels moved with precision that only decades of training could produce. Every human involved understood the stakes, and every action was infused with emotion, loyalty, courage, and the unshakable determination to protect one of their own, Dr. Elias Vaughn. In the alien capital, Dr. Vaughn could feel the subtle tremors of humanity's approach. Sensors faltered momentarily, engines hesitated, and minor systems failed in ways that seemed impossible. Even the most confident alien officers began to whisper of unseen forces manipulating events around them. Panic, for the first time, entered their minds. They realized that the humans they had underestimated were not merely responding, they were controlling, shaping, and guiding the battlefield without ever being seen. The invisible strike was not destructive in the conventional sense. No worlds burned. No fleets exploded. Yet the impact was undeniable. Alien formations were disrupted, patrols faltered, and every calculated move the coalition had made to secure Dr. Vaughn's captivity was subtly undone. Their confidence faltered. Their arrogance cracked. And through it all, humanity remained unseen, silent, and unrelenting in purpose. On Earth, leaders watched every anomaly, every subtle disruption, with controlled emotion. There was no panic, no glee, no pride, only focus, patience, and a deep understanding of the gravity of what they were doing. Humanity's strike was moral as much as it was tactical. Every maneuver was intended to protect life, not to destroy. Every disruption served as a lesson to the galaxy. Underestimate humans, and their response will be precise, unwavering, and impossible to predict. Alien commanders struggled to comprehend the chaos. Their senses failed them. Their calculations faltered. Every assumption about Earth's weakness was shattered in moments. Fleet after fleet became entangled in invisible webs of interference that left them immobile, confused, and increasingly fearful. Dr. Vaughn, observing from captivity, felt a swell of awe. The humans were everywhere, yet nowhere. They had created a force that transcended weaponry, a demonstration of patience, loyalty, and strategic genius that no alien mind could anticipate. And the emotional intensity of their actions was as powerful as the technology behind them. The invisible strike carried humanity's message: we protect what we value, we anticipate threats, we act with precision, and we do not forget those who are threatened. Across alien space, subtle disruptions continued. Supply routes faltered. Patrols doubled back, engines glitched, communications loops repeated endlessly. Commanders attempted to issue orders, only to find their fleets unresponsive in small but critical ways. Fear began to replace arrogance. Confidence crumbled into confusion. And still, humanity did not strike openly. The restraint was deliberate, calculated, and terrifying. Every move, every interference, every small disruption was a thread in a web designed to protect Dr. Vaughn and assert Earth's presence in ways the galaxy had never imagined. On Earth, strategists monitored the invisible effects of their actions, adjusting drones, recalibrating satellites, repositioning cloaked ships, and guiding every unseen maneuver. They acted with emotional clarity, moral purpose, and unyielding precision. Every human involved understood that this was not about glory, conquest, or vengeance. This was about loyalty, honor, and demonstrating that a species underestimated for centuries could operate beyond any expectation. Alien fleets, unable to locate the source of the disruptions, grew anxious. Officers argued, analysts panicked, and even the most experienced commanders questioned their own calculations. They could not see the humans. They could not anticipate them. And every hesitation, every error, every small malfunction whispered the same terrifying truth: humanity was no longer a backwater species. Humanity was everywhere. Humanity was precise. Humanity was unstoppable in its restraint. And humanity's invisible strike had only just begun. Dr. Vaughn felt hope rise inside him, tempered by awe and a deep understanding of what his species had accomplished. Humanity was not reacting. Humanity was controlling. Humanity was defending with loyalty and moral clarity that no alien species could fathom. Across the galaxy, the first lesson of this invisible strike was sinking in. The humans they had mocked and underestimated were no longer to be taken lightly. And somewhere, hidden in the darkness, every human involved in the operation understood that the invisible strike was more than tactical success. It was a moral victory, a proof that patience, precision, loyalty, and intelligence could achieve what brute force could not. The alien coalition had assumed victory, but the invisible strike taught them humility, caution, and fear. Humanity's hand had been revealed, not as a weapon of war, but as a shield of loyalty, a testament to moral strength, and a demonstration of absolute control. And in that still, tense void between stars, Earth waited. Patient. Calculated. Emotional. And the galaxy, trembling and uncertain, could only anticipate the next chapter in humanity's awakening. The galaxy shivered as the true measure of humanity began to unfold. The invisible strike had been a warning, precise and restrained, but now the reckoning was coming, not as a chaotic eruption of destruction, but as a calculated, unstoppable force that no alien could ignore or evade. Hidden fleets, long cloaked and unseen, moved into positions of absolute dominance, aligning perfectly across every strategic route the alien coalition relied upon. Satellites recalibrated, drones maneuvered into impossible positions, and communications were subtly intercepted, scrambled, or redirected, creating a network that stretched across the void like a silent, invisible web. Humanity's reach was everywhere, and yet unseen. On Earth, command centers were alive with calm intensity. Every operator, engineer, and strategist understood that this was the culmination of decades of preparation. This was not a war of vengeance or conquest, it was a war of loyalty, precision, and moral purpose. Dr. Elias Vaughn, still captive in the alien capital, felt the tightening grip of humanity's reach even from within the confines of his cell. Sensors around him flickered inexplicably, engines hesitated, communications faltered. The alien officers scrambled to maintain order, but no command could restore control over systems that humans had manipulated invisibly. Hope, steady and profound, began to take root in Dr. Vaughn's chest. Humanity was not acting recklessly. Humanity was not panicking. Humanity was reclaiming control over the situation with a patience and precision that few species in the galaxy could comprehend. Across the alien coalition, tension escalated into fear. Orders were repeated, fleets hesitated, and the arrogance that had defined their confidence began to crumble. They had underestimated Earth. They had dismissed humans as weak, backward, and insignificant. But the reckoning revealed the truth. Humans were patient, precise, intelligent, and unyielding in their loyalty. Every subtle disruption, every anomaly, every interference in alien operations carried not only strategy but emotion, intent, and moral clarity. Humanity's restraint was as lethal as any weapon, and its moral weight heavier than any fleet of warships. In the alien capital, officers began to panic. Ships that should have responded instantly faltered. Sensors that should have detected hidden fleets blinked and failed. Communications broke down in ways they could not understand. The coalition realized too late that they were trapped in a web of invisible power, controlled entirely by humans who had refused to reveal their full strength until this moment. On Earth, humans prepared for the next phase with unwavering focus. Every maneuver, every hidden fleet, every drone, every satellite was aligned with the singular purpose of protecting Dr. Vaughn and asserting humanity's presence across the galaxy. The emotional intensity was immense, yet every action was measured, precise, and deliberate. No human acted recklessly, every decision was guided by loyalty, morality, and the understanding that the galaxy had misjudged them for centuries. Alien fleets attempted desperate maneuvers, seeking to regroup, counter, or escape. Yet every path was anticipated, every movement predicted, every response calculated. Humanity's invisible reach extended to every critical point, controlling the battlefield without a single overt strike. The galaxy felt the weight of the reckoning, even if it could not see its source. Traders, observers, and distant colonies noticed anomalies. Ships faltered, patrols looped back, sensors failed, and fear spread faster than any human fleet could have moved openly. Dr. Vaughn, observing the slow unraveling of alien confidence, understood something profound. Humans did not need to destroy to demonstrate supremacy. Their control, patience, and moral resolve were enough to bend the will of the galaxy itself. Across alien space, whispers of disbelief and fear grew. Officers could not locate the source of the disruptions. Analysts argued over impossible readings. Commanders panicked at fleets that obeyed invisible constraints. And yet, humanity remained invisible, restrained, and unstoppable in potential. On Earth, leaders monitored every anomaly, every subtle effect, every disruption. They did not rejoice. They did not celebrate. Their faces were solemn, focused, and determined. They understood the weight of what they had unleashed. Every hidden maneuver, every subtle interference, every unseen adjustment was a demonstration not only of tactical brilliance but of moral purpose. Humanity's reckoning was not about annihilation. It was about loyalty, precision, and the unshakable principle that one life, Dr. Vaughn's life, was worth every risk, every calculation, every action taken. Alien commanders realized that arrogance had been their greatest enemy. Their calculations had failed. Their assumptions about human weakness had crumbled. And now, under the invisible pressure of humanity's hand, the coalition felt a terror they could not name and a power they could not resist. Humanity's fleets remained unseen, their drones invisible, their satellites cloaked, yet the effects were undeniable. Every critical point of the alien coalition was under subtle human influence, every maneuver anticipated, every potential strike neutralized. And in that invisible, unstoppable grasp, the galaxy felt the first taste of the reckoning. Dr. Vaughn, witnessing humanity's moral and strategic mastery, felt awe and relief intertwine. He understood now that his species' true strength was not in firepower alone. It was patience, loyalty, precision, restraint, and the courage to act only with purpose. Every subtle interference, every invisible maneuver, every calculated move was a testament to the power of morality fused with strategy. And humanity was not done. The reckoning had only begun. Across the alien coalition, fear turned to desperation. Fleet commanders no longer debated tactics, they panicked. Systems faltered in critical moments. Communications failed at decisive intervals. Ships could not maneuver, engines could not respond, and alien confidence collapsed. Humanity's first lethal, but invisible, strike had achieved its purpose. The galaxy now knew that Earth was not weak, that humans were not insignificant, and that loyalty and moral clarity could bend even the most arrogant fleets to humanity's will. And somewhere, hidden in the shadowed expanse of the Sol system, the humans waited. Patient, precise, emotional, and unyielding. Ready to complete the reckoning. The galaxy had been warned. It had been measured. And it had begun to understand, humans do not yield. Humans do not falter. Humans do not forgive those who threaten what they hold dear. The reckoning was just beginning, and the species that had been dismissed as powerless would soon demonstrate that restraint, strategy, and loyalty were more deadly than any weapon the galaxy had ever known. The galaxy trembled as humanity moved from restraint to decisive action. Hidden fleets that had lingered like shadows now executed maneuvers with invisible precision, surrounding the alien capital without a single alarm triggered. Systems that had seemed secure fell under subtle control. Engines faltered, communications misaligned, and defenses collapsed silently, invisibly, as if the stars themselves obeyed Earth's will. Dr. Elias Vaughn, still held captive, felt the shift immediately. The subtle tremors he had sensed before became undeniable. The invisible hand that had protected him now prepared to free him. Every subtle anomaly, every disruption in alien systems was carefully calculated, every move infused with loyalty, patience, and a fierce moral clarity. Humanity did not strike blindly. They did not destroy recklessly. They acted with purpose, precision, and emotion, demonstrating that power was more than weapons. It was intelligence, restraint, and the courage to protect what mattered most. Alien commanders scrambled desperately. Their arrogance had evaporated, replaced by fear and confusion. Orders were repeated, fleets attempted to regroup, but every maneuver had already been anticipated, countered, and neutralized by unseen human forces. Panic spread like wildfire. Ships that had once represented dominance were now trapped in invisible nets of control, unable to function or escape. Dr. Vaughn realized that his people were not only capable of saving him, they were capable of reshaping the galaxy itself with restraint and moral force. And then, the final sequence began. Cloaked vessels moved in synchrony to secure every exit, isolate every threat, and liberate Dr. Vaughn without unnecessary destruction. Drones disabled systems quietly, and communications loops ensured the aliens could not coordinate a defense. It was a symphony of strategy, patience, and loyalty. And then, the moment came. Dr. Vaughn stepped free, guided by invisible hands and silent fleets, emerging from the alien capital as a symbol of humanity's unyielding dedication. He looked around at the stunned alien crews, their eyes wide with disbelief, their minds struggling to process the species they had underestimated for centuries. Humanity did not gloat. Humanity did not strike out of anger. Their presence alone, their precision, their restraint, and the sheer moral force of their actions spoke louder than any weapon ever could. Across the galaxy, fleets halted, star systems paused, and whispers began to spread. The humans had acted, but not with rage. They had acted with loyalty, intelligence, and restraint, and the galaxy understood, finally, that Earth was no backwater planet, no weak and divided species. Humans had been underestimated at their peril. On Earth, celebrations were quiet but profound. Engineers, strategists, and operators shared glances of understanding and relief. The mission had been flawless, the hostage safe, and the galaxy forced to recognize humanity's true strength. The moral weight of their actions carried as much power as the invisible fleets that had secured the liberation. Across the alien coalition, commands faltered, officers argued, and fleets hesitated. The invisible strike had demonstrated that humans could control, protect, and dominate events without firing a single weapon unnecessarily. Fear replaced arrogance, doubt replaced confidence. Humanity's patience, restraint, and loyalty had rewritten the rules of engagement. Dr. Vaughn returned to Earth not just as a survivor, but as a symbol. A symbol of the species that refused to yield, that valued life above conquest, that demonstrated that restraint and moral clarity could be more powerful than fleets, weapons, or fear. Across the galaxy, whispers spread from system to system. Traders, scientists, diplomats, and even minor colonies reported anomalies that could no longer be ignored. The humans had acted decisively, invisibly, emotionally, and morally. They had redefined power. They had shown that loyalty and intelligence could protect life and that patience could bend the arrogance of the strongest fleets. And somewhere, in the depths of the Sol system, the hidden fleets returned to their cloaked positions, ready but unseen, quiet yet undeniably dominant. Humanity had liberated one of their own and, in doing so, had transformed the perception of an entire galaxy. No species would underestimate Earth again. No coalition would assume weakness where patience, loyalty, and strategic intelligence ruled. The galaxy now understood that humans were patient but unstoppable, restrained but precise, emotional yet unyielding. The liberation was complete, but the message was permanent. Humanity protects its own, and in that protection lies a power that no weapon, no fleet, and no arrogance could ever match. And as Dr. Vaughn stepped onto the surface of his home planet, the sun rising over oceans and continents, he realized the depth of what had been achieved. Humanity had not merely saved him, they had reminded the galaxy that restraint, loyalty, and moral clarity were forces stronger than any fleet, more potent than any weapon, and that the species that had been dismissed for centuries had finally revealed its true power. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans do not strike blindly, humans do not act without purpose, and humans never abandon one of their own. Humanity had acted, humanity had protected, humanity had triumphed. And the stars themselves seemed to bow, quietly, in recognition of what Earth had achieved.